So, you've got your gear, you've got your computer, you got your microphone, you have the software to record with, you even have a hardware synthesizer and a drum machine. But now, you thought you were done purchasing synthesizers or drum machines, but you went online and you saw a video of this new piece of kit that's coming out in the next month, and you love the way it sounds. You love the physical aesthetic of it, the way the buttons, the tactile of the buttons. You love the way it sounds. It sounds almost better than your current gear. So you take a look at your bank account, and yep, you can purchase this new piece of kit, whether it's a synthesizer, a drum machine, or a sampler, or whatever. And the only thing is, though, is you're gonna have to eat rice for the rest of the month. But you're lusting after this piece of gear, and you need to have it. You absolutely have to have it, because it's going to make your music sound 1,000 times better. So you go to the music store and you order this, or you purchase this new piece of gear. You take it home, you unbox it, and plug it in. You don't even look at the manual, you just plug it in, you start fucking around with it. And it sounds fucking amazing. But you start to realize you didn't really need this new piece of gear, and it doesn't actually sound as good as you thought it did when you initially heard the video or saw the video online or heard the sound samples. And now you're regretting your purchase choice, because now you have to eat rice for the rest of the month, and this piece of gear isn't what you thought it would be. And or maybe it was what you thought it was, but it just sits there in your studio and you're not using it. And you're starting to regret your choice of purchasing this synthesizer or whatever it is. This is what we call GAS, or Gear Acquisition Syndrome. GAS is the idea, or it is a syndrome. It's the you lust after these new toys, these new sparkly pieces of gear, and you think it'll enhance your music, but in all reality it really isn't enhancing anything. It's just a new piece of gear that looks cool, and maybe it fucking has some presets in it that sound cool or whatever, but in the end it's just another piece of gear that either you're not going to use or you're only going to use for a little bit. That is gear acquisition syndrome. Why do people have it? I think they just want the new shiny thing that they see, the new piece of gear, the feeling of, satisfaction in purchasing it and maybe using it, a couple of times is very fleeting. In the end, it'll just end up sitting in the corner, because you've gone through the presets and you use the presets, and now it's just sitting there because you're not interested in learning about it and using it to its fullest extent. Is gear acquisition good or bad, or both? I would say it's bad because you're buying gear that you don't actually need, and what you should be doing is, using the stuff you have and creating the sounds you want with the stuff you have. In order to combat gear acquisition syndrome, I strongly suggest to use what you currently have, and if you have something out there that, if there's something out there it's like, oh, this is exactly what I wanted, this is, or not exactly what I wanted, but this is the new shiny thing, and it has all these cool sounds in it. And what I think people should do is actually use what they have, and rather than going and buying out the new shiny thing, unless of course that is exactly what you want and you're going to use it. If you don't know you're going to use it in the long term, then you've just wasted a bunch of money. And if you're getting bored of your current gear, I would highly suggest setting limitations on your writing. So like if you have a couple of synths and you're tired of playing with them, and you're kind of just not inspired, I would suggest setting limitations as far as like how you use those synthesizers. For instance, maybe you use a white noise sample for every fucking single sound in a song, and you tweak it on your synthesizer, and you make your drum sounds out of it, your bass drum sounds, you make your snare sounds, your hi-hats, your crashes, your ambient sounds, or even like synth sounds, and or like you have a soft synth that you're lusting after, and it's like, use what you have. Like, set limitations, and for instance, use a, like, if it's soft synths, use a particular soft synth to create all your fucking sounds. And I think by setting limitations, you're actually growing as a musician and as an artist, and because you're learning how to use your gear, and you're utilizing what you have in order to make the sounds you want to make. And yeah, maybe your synthesizer isn't 64 voice, has 64 voice polyphony or 128 polyphony or whatever it is, but even in those cases, I would say like I have a Yamaha DX7, or not DX7, DX100, and like maybe you have some shitty fucking synth to mess with, and it's like, it doesn't sound the way you want it to when you initially program stuff into it, and it's limited on the number of voices it has. So use that synth, but if you don't have the voices that you want, I would start layering voices that you create with it and build your sounds that way. Like, as an example, like the older industrial bands, I've used this example before in another video. Older industrial bands, they, the gear they had the limitations that they had. They would go out and buy another fucking synth, and like if they had a DX7 or something like that, and they wanted to have more sounds or patch memory, they would just buy another one and create new patches within that and do it that way. Or if the issue is limited patch memory, sometimes they would just create a fucking sound. And as an example, I think it was Trent Reznor I think it was the Fragile, I think, that basically, I think they were using a Nord, I can't remember, some Nord synthesizer, and I'm not sure exactly which one it was. It could have been a Nord Lead or something like that. And as if my knowledge is correct, they would just make patches, and then, you know, they wouldn't save them or anything, and, you know, make sure you got it all recorded, because, you know, after it's done recording, they just turn off the fucking synthesizer and the patch is lost. And if something went catastrophically wrong, they would have to either recreate the patch or start from scratch. So, you know, if you have some shitty synth, like, or even get creative, like maybe you have an effects pedal that you normally use for vocals or for guitar or something, and you have this shitty, like, I've done this before. I'll use some of my music as an example. There's this one song, I think it's the song White Noise off the album Welcome, and I created a couple of patches. They're these sample and hold type patches, and they have this weird grating sound almost, and I don't know how to describe it better than that. It's like an abrasive grating sound or something. And I was like, it doesn't sound the way I want it to. So I was like, I have this fucking shitty ass Zoom pedal, like a small little unit that I still have it actually. I don't use it anymore though. And I was like, you know, I programmed in, you know, some effects and stuff into the pedal, and I was like, I hooked my synth into that, and then I played my synth into some kind of sound editing software, and then I cut it up and took those samples from the sound editing software and programmed them into this tracker-based program, and then I had the sound I wanted. It sounded really aggressive and really aggressive, and even more grating because it was all distorted and shit. You know, if you're starting to lust after other gear because you feel uninspired with your current gear, I would highly suggest setting limitations and working within those limitations. Like maybe well, I've already given examples, so I've given several examples actually. So yeah, gear acquisition syndrome. Don't buy that shiny new toy. Yeah. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. If you feel it's valuable, please share it with your friends. And you know, leave a comment in the comment section. Maybe you're dealing with gear acquisition syndrome and you need some advice. Should you get the synth or not, or a sampler? And you know, I'll give you my advice. And if you like what's on this channel, please subscribe. Thank you very much. See you in the next video. Fuck yeah.